Heya, Pixel Peeps! Today, we're going from this to this. Let's do this! One day, I was hanging out with a nephew of mine and I showed off a framed Perler Bead creation I made for my partner as a birthday gift, so he said, "Uncle Razz, could you make me one too?" The problem was that he is one of 4 siblings, so instead of making one, I made 4. They're all super into Mario, and I may or may not have gotten them addicted to Perler Beading themselves. Whoops. So, I figured I would make Perler Bead Mario in different costumes with different backdrops. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be, so I hope you feel like you can do something like this too. If you need help, please leave comments down below. Let's see what we need to make this and how we can get it done. I'll be making different sections that you can jump to if you feel like you need to skip ahead. We'll be looking at the materials we'll need, how to prepare your beads, how to prepare a background, and how to frame everything. I worked with 2 different types of frames, and there's some slight variations on the methods, so we'll be looking at that too. First up, let's look at what we need to frame our Perler Beads. Obviously, we'll be needing a frame. We have 2 different types here, and we'll explore how to deal with them later. One is a standard frame, and the other is a deep set frame with a border, but we'll be removing the border for today's demonstration. You can theoretically make something small and utilize the border like with mini beads. You can see on the back of the frames that they can either hang on a wall or stand alone as a tabletop frame. We'll also be needing a pair of scissors, access to a printer for your background or backgrounds, and depending on the frame you're going to use, we're going to need some glue. I have this regular temperature glue gun, but since I'm using it on paper, I decided later on to use a low temp glue gun. Make sure to have some cardboard and some paper towels to clean up if you make a mess if you're gluing. Finally, we'll need the Perler Bead creations themselves. So let's get into how to prepare them for this project. You can check out my playlist for more information on how to organize, set, and iron your Perler Beads, but let's assume you know the basics already. For the ironing style, I'm going to do a flat melt on one side and leave the other side unironed. It's harder for me to stay consistent with the flat melt, and as you can see, there were some distortions on the back side. No worries though, no one will be able to see the back by the time we finish. Furthermore, the flatter your back is melted, the easier it will be to glue if you have to do so depending on how deep your frame is. It will also keep your creation sturdy and in one piece if you're deciding not to iron the front side. Now, the background might actually be the most difficult part to do since it requires some dabbling into digital art. I knew my Perler Bead stuff would be taking up a huge chunk of space in the frame, so I had to create my own backgrounds and edit them to my specific needs. For example, the first frame has a size of 8 by 10 inches, so I needed to make sure my background would be big enough to fit. Once I got my sprite sheets, I went into Sprite to sort out what I wanted to use. I have a short video guide to explain how to get and use Sprite for free. For the size of the canvas, I had to do some internet sleuthing to figure out the size and aspect ratio of the printer paper I would be printing on. I was going to use letter paper, which is 8.5 by 11 inches. In my Google Doc, I made sure to have the thinnest margins possible, and you'll see why later. After doing some research and playing around with some ratios, I needed a canvas of 85 by 110 pixels. How convenient. Once I was happy with my setup, I exported it and made it 1000% bigger. This is key. You want to have a much larger image that you can shrink down if you need to, rather than having a small image that you have to stretch. Here's an example of the original size and what happens when I stretch it. In this case, it gets super blurry and distorted. If you don't have Sprite, you can also use the pixel art scaler from Low Specs website that I will link below. After making sure your margins are super thin, upload your image. Compare it with your Perler Bead creation IRL to see if it'll be a good fit or if you need to make adjustments. I had to go back and redo the backgrounds a few times before I was happy with them. If you have access to it, I would print this on some nice cardstock paper or photo paper, but I just use regular copy paper. Now we have all of our materials ready. Now, let's slap it all together. With our first frame, it looks like we'll just need to make sure that our paper fits inside. We have a problem. Our paper is too big. Remember, we planned for this. We can simply cut it down to what we need. This problem is our margin for error, and it is infinitely better than the opposite problem, our background being too small. So let's do some cutting. If you want to be more efficient than me, you can grab a pencil and measure out exactly the size you need. Most frames come with a paper inside that you can use as a reference. I just eyeballed it, but you can be as meticulous as you like. Throw your paper in the frame and make sure it fits. Now, place your Perler Bead creation inside and close up the back. If it's a shallow enough frame, the glass will press down on your beads to keep them in place. Watch how it doesn't move, even when I shake it around. Wow! Now, this other frame is a bit deeper, so when I place my beads inside, it gets thrown all over the place. Enter the glue. It might be possible to use a glue stick or something light like Elmer's glue, but I wanted to make sure that this sticks for a while, so I used a low temp glue gun. Be very careful as the end of the gun gets very hot. I used some of the cardboard that came with the frame just in case I made a mess. Place the glue where your beads are a little flatter and more melted. Don't get too close to the edge though, or you might have some glue overflow when you push it on your background. Push down for 30 seconds. Now slide it into your frame and you're golden. Now you can hang or place your frame wherever you'd like. Thanks for hanging around. Until next time, peace out.